These cornballs, these peons want to play games with your videos. And I was cooking, I was gone, family. But the point of the matter is I'm pointing myself and turning my life back to the Most High. All that stuff people be talking about with their religion and this and that, family. If it's connected to the world, it's about to be shut down. These moves that I see this government making, I believe are to usher in. They're gonna feel they need the government more and more. It's Canary. What's that guy? The little politician dude who said was explaining, and now everybody on his case like, what difference does it make that he mentioned the president has absolute power over the military? What difference does it make? I'm gonna say it again. That he mentioned. He froze as if the screen froze like he's stupid or something. No, a lot of people taking it like, oh well, he slipped and hell no. He slipped and put it out there where it needed to go. You think he would have slipped and said some shit like that? Don't let them paint that narrative, family. You gotta open your eyes, your mind's eye, understand it. They don't slip and do shit. Everything they do is intentional, family. He could have put it out there just to gauge how, for whatever reason, it wasn't no mistake. I wouldn't get caught up in that shit about no, them people don't make mistakes. Everything they do is intentional, family. They got one plan, one purpose, and they ass on code. They haven't stopped. We sitting around debating about who gonna rule over us and negating the fact that you are the ruling people. You are the cream of the crop. But you won't get that if you looking through the history we've been taught or how our Christian leaders deal with the information and that's coming out the Bible, be it disinformation or right knowledge. And right now, all I see is a bunch of disinformation. It's not right knowledge because it ain't telling no nation consequences and repercussions behind it. Well, let me tell you something. It sure starting to look like it. It sure looking to me because based on what Africa's doing, and so as Africa grows, that's a reflection of us too. Because like I explained to a lot of our brothers and sisters who sleep, they say they woke, but I don't think they really woke in the sense of putting it together on the kingdom level, raising their vibration and going into that spirit realm and really connecting the dots and understand who the Bible is talking about. We just not carnal, we're spiritual too. We made in the image and likeness of the Father. So you got to ponder on those things too, family. And I say that in humility. But we have to be just as firm, like you listening to them talking about some history or something. No, the greatest history is about the king, his kingdom, and his people, and how he gonna redeem his people before all men who talk about them and treat us like everything but children of God, even with some of our own. They choose not to follow their thinking, perverting the word, because I thought God's word was to build you, was to bring you to him and to strengthen you. They reject that. They don't want that. They want their religion where they can just hear a little something and go home, never open the book, and try and mock and ridicule those who are 10 toes down, who know who they are, and no matter what you foolish people do, we'll never stop riding for the Most High. And you better love not your life unto the death, because they even coming for that. You gotta leave this existence. So stop being scared of the things they tell you. Understand the supernatural. God is a spirit, so he's supernatural. You going back is not spooky. They taught you that. Stop parroting what they talk about. Game over. Just like Africa rising. Africa's taking control of their land resources. Think about it. That's power. And our people are invested in it. And the Hebrews that went over there, good move, brothers and sisters. And even those that don't know, great move, because guess what? Between us and Africa, that's the two sticks. There go Ezekiel 37. Think about it. A lot of us, I don't care what they talking about, just pay attention to reality. Real things that's going on. Things that are tangible that you can really see. Because a lot of people are neglecting Africa, but you right now, that's foolishness. Because you're using everything, all the resources, they use all the resources they use to produce things. A lot of that's coming out of Africa, family. And that's true. That's the truth. I ain't making nothing up. A lot of people get mad because we tend to do our research. So we'll know what we speaking. It ain't to say that I'm better than nobody, because you could sit your ass down too and go read a book. You choose to listen to these yakety and ain't talking about shit. All these motherfucking hussies talking ain't number of fucking home records. They ain't planting seeds to build shit. And they out here, y'all get them all the money to come on here and talk about people all day. It's your fault. Y'all support that bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Emotional trauma. Fuck, Kanye said it. We love, America's built on emotional trauma. You could tell by what we put out, where our interests lie. You could tell. Here man was lying, and I see he just doubled down on what he feels about Zionism. And who the true, I don't know why they keep talking about we the true Jews. Bro, we Hebrew Israelites. I don't know why y'all keep saying that. Hebrews by bloodline, Israel by nation, because that's the nation God chose, the Shemite people, to represent his kingdom of Israel, which all nations are going to go in the kingdom of Israel. Stop telling people they ain't going, it's only for Israel. Yeah, it's only for Israel. But what Shem don't understand and his descendants is that it's the kingdom of Israel. You was chosen by the God of Israel. You don't own his kingdom. No, other nations can't come into our bloodline, but our bloodline ain't the bloodline that governs who come into heaven. I choose family. Y'all better stop that. It was a mixed multitude who formed Israel. Y'all don't even understand who Israel is. A lot of y'all on your ass too, Jacob. You're his servant. You don't own his kingdom. You don't get to tell who can go in there and who ain't going in there. You better pray you get in there. You know what I'm saying? That's righteous judgment. I don't work for Israel. I love my family and kinsmen, but I don't work for them. I work for the God of Israel, and I work together with them to please him and to bring his kingdom here on earth. That ain't Shem's kingdom. That ain't our kingdom. We work for him. And he's the God of Israel. And stop telling other people they can't come into the kingdom. You ain't gonna make it. You keep saying that. I'm bold enough to make that declaration, and I'm gonna say it. Whoever telling people, their religions ain't getting in there. Destroy their religions. You're supposed to tear down all wickedness in high places, spiritual wickedness in high places. Their religions are spiritual wickedness in high places. Speak the word. That's how you tear them down. I ain't gotta hate them. All I gotta do is speak what's written, and they ass gonna duck for cover. They can't contend against the sons of Jacob. They can't contend against us, man, with that word. They don't know that word like that. Stop playing. We be chewing their ass, chewing them up and spitting them out. Let me stop using profane language. We be chewing them up, man. They don't know nothing about that Bible. I don't care how many scholars you talking about. They scholars. You gonna stay a scholar. We the spiritual sons in reality. That's the difference, family. And right now, these nations, yes, you're gonna see a lot of pushback against the people. Why? Because they coming into a new order. The Christ order. There ain't gonna be no world order. Yeah, they gonna try to pull it, but that shit ain't gonna stand. It's the Christ order coming forth. That's what you praying, right? Thy kingdom come. That's his kingdom that's to be, established for eternity. After this is the forever one coming. This the big thing. This is a big deal, family. You're part of structure, rewrite the structure of the earth, how the earth's supposed to operate within context of the king's, under the context of the king's authority, the king of all kings, Yahuwah. That's all I want to share though. The judgments are on those who had a hand in what happened to his people. You could say they not, but even the people that are related to them, they are expressing it. They understand it ain't no sky daddy or some fake religion, god or idol, little g idol that's orchestrating us. They understand according to the written text, just like we learn. You could talk till you blue in the face. I don't care. Because the word is still gonna go forth and it's still being the prophecies are being revealed and things are moving and shaking in a way that we have never seen. Yes, 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 yes. The word is true. That's what we align ourselves with. And that's what we need to teach these Gentiles. They the Gentiles. We are not Gentiles. I don't care what a Christian say. I'm going to tell you flat out, they don't know what they're talking about. We are in this hour. Yes, the word was shown unto Jacob. You have to stick to the context. Yes, the Messiah said, go teach all. Make disciples of all men. Disciples of who? Of the king. And if you following them, you is just responsible. You teach them the right way. Don't let nobody get away with that. Not even me. If I'm saying something that's not in agreement with the word, you feel it in your spirit, let me know. Leave me a message. I have people telling me all kind of stuff, but I'm like, whatever you describe, whatever you explain, and you're not coming from a scriptural base, so I can't. You don't know what you're talking about. I can't entertain that, which would lead to an argument. We're just gonna go back and forth. What you think, which like I said, like the brother made clear. Kanye, America sells emotional trauma. They don't talk about nothing good and fruitful, fixing nothing, making life better, how the people get the people involved, get the people the things that they need to fulfill things that brings life. The Most High said work, because you go to another and trust and give them the authority to allow you to work, you're going to reap the rewards of your choices. It's like when the ancestors wanted a king. A president to the Most High is like you just throwing your middle finger up. Why would you want somebody else to rule over you? And you got the creator of all the worlds. Y'all better wake up, family. This ain't no religion. And it ain't a game. It's the law. It's the instructions in eternity and even in earth, family. No matter where you go, even to the depths of hell, everything, Satan even had to ask the Most High. Man, the Most High asked him, what you doing, Satan? He running his tail everywhere, messing with people, talking about he roaming to and fro, seeking who he can devour. He's doing what he do. He was doing what he true to. Being rebellious. Reserving his future in the lake of fire forever. Ain't no redemption for him. And anyone else that blasphemes the Holy Spirit. That nigga went against the word. Try it if you want to. I don't think y'all want to play with Jacob. Once he falls under the authority of the Ruach, where the evidence gonna be there. You're gonna know people ain't just operating out of their own will, because you don't even know we the people. We're the forerunners. I had to realize that. I was talking to an elder earlier, and he was like, brother, the way you answer things and use Bible chapter and scripture as it relates to what's going on in the present, You go and find it in the past that happened and bring it forth and rightly divide it where we can use it and apply it. Brother, the Most High gave you a gift. You got to get it out there. You got to stand on it and teach the people and be sincere about it. I'm like, yeah, you right, King. Because I've been expressing this and sharing this with them all this time. And it's time to let them know I got a page. That's one of the elders in the community. And we always talk about the herbs because his children are into the herbs, and they understand the healing of it, but they follow religions and they not following the author and finisher of their faith who gave them the fruit and the healing of the herb, the vegetables and the fruit. They don't follow him or his instruction. They follow religion. They quick to tell you about a religion like, oh no, we don't follow the Bible. The white man wrote the Bible. Taking the earth. Look how things are shifting so fast. And look how the enemy and that spirit that's on the people that's been carried with a little raggedy. We pray for them that they be strengthened to do the right thing, carry their cross. They always want to proclaim something that they this or that, but we just want them to operate in the right way, in righteousness. That word, seek ye first the kingdom in his righteousness. That means the king's dominion and his right rulership. You want to have it right now. We don't want y'all moving ignorantly. I would not have you to be ignorant. Paul gave it to us. Hold on, y'all. I got to run upstairs right quick. I just came from the store, so I sat down. Struggle not because I have to struggle. I'm not applying myself. It's because I've been more so leaning out here and pay attention to the people, and I adjust my posture, my mindset. I don't want to think that people to think that I think I'm better than nobody, because people will try to say that and use things like that against you just because they don't got that chip in them like you got for your who. And then they don't believe in knowledge. A lot of these people you listening to, they ain't doing half the shit they on there talking about they do. How can you be doing all this? And we know a lot of these even learning the knowledge to tap into different things, whether it be a certain product, it takes time. It don't take years. It can take, 6 to 9 months. Some things 30 days to get an understanding. You tap in and put you in, and you grow as you go. Yes, a lot of us have the foresight, and we are operating at levels that we're not comprehending and coming into full understanding, so we can you know make ourselves better, all around better people. I gotta wake up. I'm just one who heard the call. I hear it. I said, oh, you can't tell me nothing. spoke is here. It has to come forth. It has to come forth. The word won't come back void. I promise you. When he say thou shalt not, go do it. And watch what happens to you. If you don't believe it, watch what happens to you. Go do whatever he told you. I don't recommend that. But try to pull that if you want to. See what happens to you. You're gonna get that judgment of what it says gonna happen, and y'all gonna be looking half crazy, not understanding really what you got going on. It's gonna get you. Life's gonna get you. It's gonna get you. It's gonna get you in such a way, and you ain't gonna equate it like everybody else. I encourage you to read the Bible. I encourage you to draw closer to the Most High. Lift up Messiah, and He will draw all men to the Father, because He is. I am in the flesh. Get this ice water and it's on to Burkina Faso, and I'm gonna end this video. But the information I've been talking about with Africa, here it is, family. And it's giving you the opportunity to invest, get to know, do your research, and go prepare yourself for destiny. The empire of debt is falling, Africa is rising. Yeah, like debt is killing us. What? Traore, African Sky Shield, new missile defense test.
Said Africa could never be a machine. They said the sky would always belong to someone else. To foreign lands, foreign codes, foreign commands. But then a fire rose over the horizon of Burkina Faso, and the world went silent. That night, as the African sky trembled with light,
Fair use copyright, fair use copyright, fair use copyright, fair use copyright. I want to share this video on the state of Africa so that you can make sound decisions of investment or whatever else. You have the right information and you can go. Choose wisely.
the United States, the self-proclaimed empire of endless prosperity, is drowning in its own debt. Meanwhile, Africa, the continent the West once called poor, is rising on a tide of gold, oil, lithium, and conviction. Let that sink in. The same Africa they looted for centuries is now holding the keys to the resources that power the 21st century. And the same America that dictated global economics for 100 years is now living on borrowed money, borrowed time, and borrowed confidence. Today, we're not talking about charity, aid, or helping Africa. That era is over. We're talking about a reversal of power, economic, political, and psychological. For the first time in modern history, Africa has leverage the West can't ignore. And that leverage is growing faster than Washington's ability to print
I
dollars.
just told
Let's
them
start with
they
the
think
brutal
I'm
truth.
crazy.
America's economy
Shit, you better do
runs
the
on illusion.
research.
As of 2025, U.S. debt has blown past $35 trillion. That's over 130% of its GDP. For every dollar the American economy makes, it owes 130. The U.S. now spends more money paying interest on debt than it does on national defense. Think about that. The empire that built its image on military dominance is now fighting a war it can't win, the war against its own debt clock. The machine is eating itself. Washington keeps printing money, selling treasury bonds, and hoping the world keeps believing the dollar is safe. But belief doesn't last forever. Every empire that rises on confidence eventually falls when that confidence breaks. Rome did, Britain did, and now the cracks are visible in America's dollar wall. Foreign governments are quietly reducing their dollar reserves. Central banks, from China to Saudi Arabia to Kenya, are buying gold.
I keep telling them, hey, gold is the bank. They gonna do this and that. They ain't gonna do nothing. They ass gonna get down and lay down. They gonna get down with the program or starve. You better wake up. Gold gives you power. It doesn't lose value. The billionaires telling you the central bank is buying it up. All around the world, banks are buying it, and the nations that produce it are producing it at a rate like never before. But you're not paying attention because of social media or what some dude talking about getting some credit. That system, old legacy system. You're gonna have to come into understanding this. You ain't got no choice. Game on. Let's get it. We ain't got no choice, family. Understand. We coming to a new order. They coming into electronic order of financing. So through that, they're gonna get rid of their debt, family. And if your holdings, you talking about your assets you got, if they not secure in something other than how you purchase them with that dollar, that credit system, you better hope it stands coming into this new world, this new system. In the new world that we going to, electronic transactions, you better wake up. It's not no conspiracy theory. Now it's a matter of getting the knowledge and tapping in so you can make money and sustain you and your household. Because if you're not up on game like this, you're gonna have to come under being a dependent. And if you're a dependent, you already know what's already they planning for you. They gonna own your ass. You ain't gonna own nothing. They gonna and you gonna be happy about it. And they gonna own your ass and ration out how you eat, sleep, and live. Real, real talk. They ain't finna just give you the opportunity to live willy nilly. They gonna control the environment. You better wake up and get the power so you can control the outcome for your generations to come. It's a war. They trying to control us, brother and sister. You better wake up. Wake up, Jacob. We ain't got this knowledge for nothing.
Dollars. Let's start with the brutal truth. America's
Tell it.
economy runs on illusion. As of 2025, U.S. debt has blown past $35 trillion. That's over 130% of its GDP. For every dollar the American economy makes, it owes 130. The U.S. now spends more money paying interest on debt than it does on national defense. Think about that. The empire that built its image on military dominance is now fighting a war it can't win, the war against its own debt clock. The machine is eating itself. Washington keeps printing money, selling treasury bonds, and hoping the world keeps believing the dollar nationalized its gold sector. Western economists called it reckless. When Mali kicked out French
Hold
troops,
on,
they
family. I
called
don't
it
know
dangerous.
what the hell. They ain't gonna tell them what they did with this video. They be on bull crap.
This isn't just
Slow down,
economics,
YouTube. It's good
revolution.
information for you to get to so you can invest and protect your assets. Don't get caught in the dark. Y'all know I do a lot of research. I ain't just coming on here. I ain't just coming on here running off at the mouth and don't got no receipts, family. I've always had to carry my own load because I thought that was the way to go, being in the streets and still carry that mentality. And I understand why. I didn't need them. What the hell? They need my energy. They ain't got nothing. I got the knowledge and I can use it. The hell? Wake
They're
up.
talking about liberation, a redefinition.
We better
of
wake
value,
up, fam.
A declaration that Africa will no longer trade its gold for green paper printed in Washington, and that terrifies the West. Africa isn't supposed to think this way. The script said Africa was supposed to beg for loans, sign bad deals, and stay quiet while multinationals drained its soil. But that script is being burned in real time by a generation of Africans who have had enough. Now let's look at the psychological shift behind this. For decades, African leaders were told stability meant obeying the IMF, the World Bank, and the dollar system. But what did that bring? Poverty, dependency, and endless restructuring programs that never ended. These institutions didn't fix African economies, they froze them. That's why today's sovereignty movement matters. It's not just about throwing out French troops or American influence. It's about rewriting the rules of engagement. When Burkina Faso nationalized its gold sector, Western economists called it reckless. When Mali kicked out French troops, they called it dangerous. When Niger ended uranium exports to France, they called it short-sighted. But who are these people to define reckless? The same nations sitting on mountain ranges of debt while Africa sits on mountains of lithium? Please. What's truly reckless is a system that prints paper money backed by...
Do you understand the shift in the people of Africa and the diaspora? Do you see the shift in strength and spirit and our determination? It's a whole different atmosphere, family. We ain't shucking and jiving. Brothers and sisters getting things done worldwide. Wake up.
Nothing while demanding Africa
It's
sell
up.
tangible wealth for it. Let's make it plain. The global economy runs on African minerals. Without Africa, there are no electric cars, no smartphones, no renewable energy transition. The so-called green future is being mined from African soil. But here's where the story twists. Africans are beginning to realize that they hold the leverage now. That's why you see regional cooperation growing outside Western systems. The Alliance of Sahel States, AES, between Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso isn't just a military pact. It's the embryo of a new African power bloc, one that doesn't beg Paris for permission or Washington for approval, and it's spreading. Chad, Guinea, and even parts of Central Africa are watching closely. Leaders are quietly asking themselves, if they can do it, why can't we? Because the truth is, once one African nation breaks the chain and survives, the illusion of Western control collapses. And that's exactly what's happening now. But let's not romanticize this. This road isn't easy. Every African leader who's challenged the neo-colonial system has faced coups, sabotage, or assassination attempts. From Lumumba to Sankara, history is littered with reminders of what happens when an African leader refuses to bow. That's why Ibrahim Traore's defiance matters. He's not just another young soldier in fatigues. He represents a generation that no longer believes the West's promises, a generation that has seen its parents work in mines while their children starve, a generation that understands that political independence means nothing without economic freedom. And that's the heart of this story, economic sovereignty. Because while America drowns in debt it can't repay, Africa is sitting on resources it...
And don't forget your brothers and sisters, Africa.
Hasn't even begun to fully use. The real question isn't whether Africa
we'll shake this boy
whether
up.
it will control that rise,
Minus
or whether
the control of the
foreign
dollar.
will hijack it again. That's why this moment is so dangerous and so powerful. Let's break this down. America's economic dominance was built on two pillars.
We owe them the opportunity to challenge their system. It was something forced. We didn't ask for it. And as a responsible, enlightened older person, I got every right to challenge anything they bring. And you better know it too. In Africa, we need to hook up.
The dollar and global trust. Both are cracking. The US dollar became the world's reserve currency after World War II because it was backed by gold and stability. But since Nixon cut the gold link in 1971, it's been backed by nothing but reputation. And that reputation is now in question.
I tell people that they look at me crazy. There's no intricate value coming out a piece of paper. That paper ain't shit. Gold and minerals never lose their value because America or Europe say it do. That means America and Europe are going to isolate themselves, and you're going to see what's happening to France, to all of Europe. They're going to need their minerals. They can talk that shit, but they're going to bow the fuck down because they're going to need some minerals, and it's about to get cold. You finna see.
When Washington weaponized the dollar, freezing countries' reserves, sanctioning anyone who stepped out of line, it started destroying its own credibility. Nations began asking, why trust a currency controlled by our rival? So they started looking elsewhere, to China's yuan, to regional currencies, and yes, to gold. Guess who has the gold? Africa. From Ghana to Sudan, new refineries are being built to process gold locally instead of shipping it to Europe. That means value stays in Africa, jobs stay in Africa, power stays in Africa. And as that happens, the illusion of Western financial superiority begins to crumble. Meanwhile, back in Washington, politicians argue over how much more money they can borrow before the system collapses. The government prints trillions to keep its own economy alive. Inflation rises, living costs explode, and ordinary Americans are paying for a system designed to protect the old.
America is destroying itself. People wake up. All they got to do is come out tomorrow and say, you know what? If you operate any kind of business or hustle, you can turn it into a real business. We're going to give you land. You have to hire people. That's what will make America great. They put that shit on the shoulders of a few people they trust. Like, y'all fucking delusion. You gonna lose. You ain't got the goods. Africa is dominating in the paint. They taking over. And it's evident by them, which makes it more. America talking about it's dangerous. That ain't dangerous. Your perception is dangerous. How you perceive things. That's good. You don't do things with equity or with law or with love towards your fellow man. Y'all get shit and use it against people. You just heard them say your sanctions because of your piece of paper. You cut that shit off. And you make do with what you got. And it just so happened they got the goods that the European nations can't cut off. If they cut off, they ass gonna get cut off.
Rich. And yet these same politicians still lecture Africa about fiscal discipline. It's hypocrisy at its purest form.
They can't get shit done. We need to be left in there.
While trillions vanish in Pentagon audits.
It preaches your ass down somewhere.
That serve its interests.
Yeah, still it ain't shit vanished.
While maintaining military bases across Africa. But
I can't get $100 out their stinking ass. But they stealing trillions daily and want to try and lecture somebody. They ass out of here. Off our back. Here's what fuck. Africa rise. I support you. I'm with you. I'm gonna put my pennies in there. I'm gonna put my pennies in there. Understand. You too.
Africa is no longer listening. There's a new consciousness emerging. A belief that Africa doesn't need validation from anyone.
I
that it
don't
can
know.
build its own systems,
Thank God.
trade in its own currencies, and chart its own path without Western permission.
And
And
charge
this
their
belief,
ass
the
if they want to
psychological
use it.
independence, is more
That's how that
dangerous to
go.
Western power than any army, because once people
I
stop
don't know
believing in the
motherfucking army
illusion,
for
the
that.
illusion dies. The American dream was built on credit. The African
Exactly.
dream is being rebuilt on ownership. Ownership of land, ownership of resources, ownership of destiny. That's not nationalism. It's economic realism. It's common sense. And that's exactly what the West
Exactly.
fears. An Africa that knows its worth. Because when Africa starts acting like the owner, not the tenant, the global
I
order
told you they
flips.
were
And
educating
that's
the
what's
people
happening. Quietly,
to
steadily,
process,
and
manufacture,
irreversibly.
and distribute.
Africa is beginning to understand that debt is
Go.
a
They ain't out there
physical
shaking them
form
little
of
10
control.
things no
For
more.
decades, Western lenders used it
No.
to chain entire
They
nations.
in the studio
They called
cooking
it
up
development aid. But the
billions, and
reality,
the
it
next
wasn't
trillionaires
reached.
finna
The
come out of
IMF
Africa
gives
in
a
our
loan, then
lifetime.
demands reforms. Those reforms mean cutting subsidies, selling public assets, opening markets, basically surrendering sovereignty. That's how Africa's richest countries ended up exporting raw materials and importing finished products at 10 times the price. It's not incompetence, it's design. The global financial system was never built for Africa to win. It was built to keep Africa compliant, dependent, predictable. But something shifted. After COVID, after the Ukraine war, after watching Europe scramble for African gas and minerals, African leaders realized something profound. The world needs Africa more than Africa needs the world. You can see it in every
We
negotiation
told
now.
y'all.
When France demanded
I'm
uranium
glad
from
you woke.
Niger said no. When the
Keep
US
telling
tried
me.
to pressure Ghana on its gold for oil policy, Accra said, "We're doing this for our people." When the IMF wanted Zambia to prioritize debt repayment to Western bondholders, Zambia said, "We'll pay when our citizens eat." That's not defiance, it's dignity, and it's spreading. Because this generation of Africans understands that aid without autonomy is slavery in disguise. It's better to own 50% of something real than 100% of an illusion controlled by others. Let's talk about minerals for a second. Everyone knows about oil and gold, but the future runs on lithium, cobalt, and rare earth metals. These are the ingredients of the 21st century. Electric cars, solar panels, AI hardware, all of it depends on Africa.
That's right.
Zimbabwe, Namibia, and the DRC are sitting on what analysts call the new Saudi Arabia of energy minerals. But this time, the game is different. Zimbabwe banned raw lithium exports in 2023. That one move sent shockwaves through
I
global supply
told my
chains.
brothers they ain't
Western
want to
media
listen.
screamed that it would scare away investors.
So what?
Translation, they're
They'll
angry
be
they
back.
can't keep looting for free.
I told my brothers this. I'm gonna send him this video. You can get the intricacies of what's going on because it's being developed with or without. You know, it's not gonna stop. And that's the beauty of it. It's prophesied. Mm. I'm so excited for Africa. And all I want to do is invest from here and live out my days investing in Africa and collecting my residuals. As they use it so wisely to continue to build and nurture their growth and empower them to be the next billionaires and trillionaires coming soon. Not later, but soon. They control all that. And they putting it back in the country. Well, guess what? Them seeds gonna go grow over to them too.
Engineers are being trained. Instead of exporting rocks,
You hear
Africa is exporting batteries, circuits, refined metals. That's what sovereignty looks like in practice. Not speeches, not slogans, structures.
Hell no.
Meanwhile, America's entire economic system depends on maintaining the illusion that the dollar is untouchable. But as debt mounts and confidence fades, the cracks widen. In 2025, US interest payments hit nearly $1 trillion per year. That's not sustainable. That's terminal. Every dollar America prints devalues every other dollar in existence. So when African nations hold dollar reserves, they're literally storing value in a currency being eaten by inflation. That's why countries like Ghana, Egypt, and South Africa are increasing their gold holdings. That's why BRICS expansion matters, because it represents a shift from dependence on Western debt to cooperation among emerging powers.
Show me what you got. Where your oil? Where your lithium? You know what I'm saying?
Now let's be clear, BRICS isn't a miracle solution. It's a tool, and Africa must use it wisely, on its own terms, because sovereignty doesn't mean replacing one master with another.
That's
It
right.
means understanding leverage and playing the game to win. Here's the uncomfortable
That's
truth.
right.
The West
When you
never
win, we
respected
win.
Africa because
Let's
Africa
do it,
never
Africa.
set the price. The one
I'm
who
ready
sets
to
the price
fucking win.
controls the power. For centuries, Europe and America decided what African labor, minerals, and even lives were
That's
worth.
over
That
with.
era is ending. Today,
Take
Africa's
control,
leaders
Al.
are beginning to understand the power
So
of
y'all
saying
call
no.
y'all
No
people.
to exploitative contracts, no to traps disguised as assistance,
Hmm.
no to military bases that promise security but breed dependency. And every no shakes the foundation of Western dominance.
Hmm.
That's why you're seeing such aggression from Western media. Why every sovereign African leader is instantly labeled a dictator or populist.
Stay a
It's the same
dictator.
playbook
Fuck
they
them.
used against Nkrumah, Sankara, Lumumba. Anyone who dared to think independently, but this time, there's one major difference. Africa is not alone. Russia and China, whatever their flaws, are at least offering alternatives. They're saying trade in local currencies, build your own systems. Now, does that mean Africa should surrender to Moscow or Beijing? Absolutely not.
Not.
It means Africa has options, and options
That's
are
right.
power. The United States
That's right.
hates that word, multipolarity, because it means the era of Western monopoly is over. The world is no longer unipolar. It's plural, competitive, alive. Africa sits at the center of that new balance. The irony, the same resources that made Africa a victim of colonization are now its ticket to independence. Gold, oil, lithium,
I
they
see
used
it
to
in
be
your
chains.
face, King.
Now they're shields. And here's where it gets poetic.
Yeah,
While
Africa finna
Washington
be
debates whether to
billionaires,
raise its
family.
debt ceiling
Overnight.
again, African
Overnight,
nations are
watch.
debating how to raise their resource value.
Africa
While
finna be
America's leaders
billionaires
argue about
overnight.
funding endless wars, African leaders are talking
Watch.
about funding industrialization. It's like two civilizations moving in opposite directions, one descending into self-inflicted chaos, the other clawing its way towards self-definition. For decades, Africa was
I'm with
told
the
to
latter.
follow the Western model. But what is that model now? A
Nothing.
model that produces trillion-dollar deficits, homeless veterans, and collapsing infrastructure. That's not a model. It's a warning sign. And
It ain't never create shit for us, but a place to work. That's it, and get ridiculed and mocked, looked down on. I'm being honest. Y'all see what they doing, and then you came. The brothers and sisters coming from other places, they getting a wake up call. Like, what the hell? Now they understand. Thank God for that.
Africa is watching closely because for the first time, the continent can see clearly. Western advice often leads to African poverty, while African unity leads to African prosperity. That's why Ibrahim Traore's words resonate beyond Burkina Faso. When he
Damn
says,
right.
we prefer dignity in poverty to wealth and slavery, it's not just rhetoric, it's strategy. It's the kind of clarity the world fears, because clarity exposes hypocrisy. Burkina Faso was once dismissed as one of the poorest countries on earth. But today, it's one of the most politically respected in Africa. Why?
Mhm.
Because it has moral authority, because it
That's right.
stands for something. You can't measure that in GDP. You measure it in courage, and courage is contagious. Now Mali, Niger, Guinea, and even Chad are beginning to think in the same language of self-sufficiency, of mutual defense, of African destiny. That's the seed of transformation, because sovereignty doesn't grow from wealth. It grows from conviction.
That's
The
right.
United States can't understand this because it's forgotten what real struggle looks like. It prints its way out of problems. It fights wars with borrowed money. It governs by illusion. But Africa knows hunger. Africa knows rebuilding. Africa knows patience. And that's the difference. Resilience builds nations. Comfort breeds dependency. So while America drowns in luxury debt, Africa rises from scarcity with discipline. This is the quiet inversion of the 21st century,
That's
not
right.
an overnight revolution, but a gradual reordering of power. And every policy that America enacts to contain Africa's rise only accelerates it, because control breeds resistance, and resistance breeds unity. That's why sanctions, military pressure, and propaganda no longer work the way they used to. Africans have learned to read between the lines. They've seen the pattern too many times. So now, when the West says we're here to promote democracy, people ask, whose democracy? When it says we're here to ensure stability, people ask, for whom? The mask is slipping. Africa is watching the empire expose itself, one contradiction at a time. But make no mistake, this new power comes with responsibility.
Look how they did to
Sovereignty
people.
means self accountability. It means African leaders must serve their people, not their egos. It means building systems that outlast individuals, because the same people cheering Traoré today will demand results tomorrow,
Yeah.
and rightly so. The world is shifting, the balance is tipping, and for the first time in centuries, the center of gravity is moving south toward Africa, and no one can stop it.
That's
Not
right.
Washington, not Brussels, not the IMF, because
Sure,
this shift
right.
isn't being dictated by governments, it's being driven by reality. A reality where Africa's resources are indispensable and Western paper money can't buy loyalty anymore. A reality where nations once treated as developing are now developing themselves. You can feel it across the continent. From Dakar to Addis Ababa, from Harare to Bamako, people are starting to walk taller. There's a new fire in the conversation, a quiet, confident energy that says, our time isn't coming, it's here. But let's be clear,
Yeah,
this
y'all
moment
gonna be
won't last
wealthy.
forever unless it's defended, because empires never fade quietly. They
Hell no.
sabotage what they can't control. Look at
That's why you need to hook up with your diasporan too. We all do it. We're gonna ride or die.
the playbook. When Africa starts to unite, the West whispers division. When leaders resist exploitation,
Can't
the
give them
West
none.
calls
We
them
gotta all come
authoritarian.
together.
When countries seek independence, the
Come
West
through
floods
lava,
them with
Africa,
NGOs and narratives
diaspora.
designed to fracture national will. This isn't paranoia, it's historical repetition.
We're gonna work
France
to
didn't
ensure
lose
you get
Africa
it.
peacefully.
Stop
It's
playing.
being pushed out. American influence isn't
Exactly.
fading because Africans hate America. It's fading because Africans see through the game. And that's far more dangerous to Washington than any protest or coup. The illusion is breaking. Let's talk economics again, because that's where this power shift becomes visible. America's economy runs on consumption. It needs constant imports, raw materials,
Yes.
energy, cheap labor to survive. Africa's economy, by contrast, runs on potential. Every mine, every farm, every solar field represents an untapped reserve of real
Yes.
value. The West's
Yes.
wealth is symbolic, Africa's is
Yeah,
physical.
we
And
ain't
when
giving
physical
us shit to
value
put in
starts being
place.
priced on African terms,
They
the
wanna
symbolic
tax you for
loses
what you
its
create.
dominance. That's why we're
And
seeing
then
the global
restrict
push to
the
securitize
shit you
African
need to
resources.
do it. Like,
The U.S. calls
y'all
it critical
backwards as
minerals
fuck.
diplomacy.
You're
Europe
gonna
calls it
lose.
green partnership. It's all code for one thing: desperation. Because the green transition, the future of global energy, depends on African soil.
That's right.
Without African cobalt, there are no electric cars.
Mm.
Without African lithium, there are no batteries. Without
They found a
African rare
bunch of
earths,
lithium in
there
America.
is no
Fuck
high-tech
outta here.
civilization. That's the secret the world doesn't say out loud. Africa is the foundation of the 21st
I say
century,
it for you,
and it
Africa.
knows it. Now here's the question.
I
What
would
does
not have
Africa
you
do
eat
with
it.
this leverage? Because leverage without vision is just chaos.
Exactly.
Africa must build, not just extract, refine, manufacture, and own the full chain of value.
Damn right.
This is where true independence lives,
Damn
in
right.
processing power, not just raw material
Hell
power.
no.
We're seeing glimpses of it.
But
Nigeria
they
is
gonna
pushing
need
to
it, so
refine
you
its
gotta
own
market.
oil rather
They
than
gonna need
export
it.
crude.
I don't give a fuck what
Zimbabwe
they
is
say.
building local battery plants. Tanzania is processing
Yes.
its own graphite. Ethiopia is expanding textile manufacturing instead of
Yes.
shipping out raw cotton. Each of these moves
Yes.
may look small in isolation, but
Shit.
together they mark the rebirth of an industrial Africa. And
Yes.
that's what terrifies the debt-ridden West.
Yes.
Because once Africa starts producing finished goods, it stops needing the global North. And
Yes.
once Africa stops needing the North,
Yes.
the North loses control. Now, let's
Yes.
talk about control, the psychological kind.
It's
For
game
years,
over for
Western
them. They
media
finna be
defined
looking
how
homey,
Africa saw itself.
homeless,
Every
fucked
story
up,
framed through
and
film,
Africa gonna be like,
every
y'all
interview
get out of here. They
refused
gonna be
Western
looking
influence
fucked up.
portrayed as dangerous or
Africa gonna be
delusional.
like, get y'all
That
ass out
narrative
of here.
machine is breaking down too.
That's
Social
what
media,
they- the
independent
people that
channels,
can't
and African creators are rewriting the script in real time. People aren't waiting for CNN or BBC anymore. They're turning to their own platforms, their own analysts, their own voices, and that's powerful because the greatest form of colonization wasn't physical, it was mental. It was convincing Africans that their leaders were always corrupt, their cultures backward, and their futures dependent on foreign aid. That lie doesn't work anymore. Now, the new message is spreading. Africa defines itself. If a leader fails his people, Africans will say so. No need for Western judgment. If a leader serves his people, Africans will defend him. No need for Western approval. That's self-determination at its purest. Meanwhile, America keeps exporting chaos disguised as freedom. It wages wars it can't win, funds allies it can't trust, and prints money it can't back. It's a superpower living off yesterday's reputation. And here's the irony. It's starting to look like the victim. And that's why Africa's rise feels poetic. It's not just economic payback, it's karmic balance. The same continent they called Third World is becoming the world's first resource powerhouse. The same leaders they dismissed as strongmen are becoming architects of a new geopolitical order. History isn't repeating, it's reversing. But let's be honest, Africa's rise will not be comfortable. True sovereignty is messy. It demands discipline, integrity, and sacrifice. Because liberation isn't the finish line, it's maintenance. If Africa wants to stay free, it must confront its internal enemies too: corruption, complacency, and elite capture. You can't fight neocolonialism abroad while practicing it at home. You can't shout sovereignty while stealing from your own people. That's why the next frontier of Africa's revolution isn't military, it's moral. The leaders who will define Africa's century are not those who talk sovereignty, but those who live it. Leaders who can build transparent systems, protect national wealth, and channel it into education, infrastructure, and technology. Because sovereignty without justice is just another illusion, and Africans are done with illusions. Look around. Burkina Faso is building alliances not just with soldiers, but with farmers, engineers, and teachers. They're not chasing Western approval. They're building a national purpose. That's why so many across the continent respect Ibrahim Traore. Not because he's perfect, but because he's authentic. Because he talks to the people directly and acts like a man who understands he's part of history, not above it. That authenticity is rare and dangerous to the system, because authenticity spreads faster than propaganda. It reminds people of their own power, and once people rediscover their power, no empire can contain them. So where does this leave America? In a word, cornered. It's trapped between its own arrogance and its collapsing financial reality. It can't fight wars without borrowing, can't borrow without printing, and can't print without devaluing. The dollar that once ruled the world now survives on habit. And habits die when people find alternatives. Those alternatives are here: gold, brick settlements, regional trade currencies. It's not about destroying the dollar, it's about dethroning its monopoly. Africa doesn't want revenge, it wants balance. It doesn't want chaos, it wants respect. And the only thing standing in its way now is time and unity. Because the future belongs to the united, not the divided. If Africa builds internal cohesion through trade, security, and infrastructure, it will become unstoppable. A continent that feeds itself, powers itself, and defends itself is a superpower, no matter what Washington or Paris says. And that's the trajectory we're watching unfold. The world's youngest
Think about
population,
them. They
the
get their
planet's
ass on.
richest soil, the
Young
fastest
one.
growing economies. The arithmetic of destiny is clear. The
That's right.
empire of debt is
With our
falling.
young
The
lions,
continent of value is
They're
rising.
gonna take the
Africa
world.
is no longer waiting for permission. It's writing the next chapter of
It's been
civilization
taken
on
already.
its own terms, in
That's
its own
what they don't
language,
get.
for its own people. So if you believe in this vision, if you stand for a sovereign
I'm
Africa,
putting my
that
money
owns
where
its
my
future,
mouth is.
hit
You
that
gonna
like
know.
button, share this message, and subscribe. Because the world may not see it yet, but history already does. The 21st
Damn right.
century belongs to
I ain't
Africa.
thinking about them.
Customers
ass
love
gonna
our
learn
closet doors.
today.
You can easily change
In the red dusk over northern Burkina Faso, a predator drone sliced through silence until it did not. A single streak of fire, then impact. Metal cracked, dust swallowed the sky. And when the wreckage cooled, one truth burned through the smoke. It was not French. It was not American. It was Israeli. Coded navigation logs, Hebrew lettering on stabilizers. And deep in the fuselage, target coordinates tracing uranium fields near Gossi. Untouched, unlisted, unclaimed. For decades, they told Africa it was poor.
Yeah, it's still.
In the red dusk over northern Burkina Faso, a predator drone sliced through silent.
Yourselves, Africa, and to every American watching this, pay close attention. Because tonight the ground isn't shaking from an earthquake, it's trembling from the roar of a soldier who dared to speak when everyone else stayed silent. In Tanzania, a man in uniform, Captain John Charles Tesher, has done what few in Africa's modern history have ever risked. He looked straight into a camera knowing it might cost him his life and called his leaders thieves, murderers, and traitors to their own people. On October 4th, Tesher, a weapons instructor in the Tanzanian People's Defense Force, went live across YouTube, TikTok, and WhatsApp. What he revealed was not just a corruption story. It was a confession of a soldier's heartbreak, a man who had seen his nation sold piece by piece, its ports to foreign investors, its gold mines to corporations, and its very soul to power-hungry politicians. He named names former President Jakaya Kikwete Tycoon, Rostam Aziz, and even the current president's son, Abdul. And with a trembling voice, he uttered the words no African leader wants to hear. It's time for the army to take back our country. For the first time in decades, East Africa is staring into the same storm that swept across Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. And just like Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso, Tesher's words are igniting something much larger, a continental question that cannot be ignored anymore. Are Africa's soldiers becoming the last defenders of the people, or are we witnessing the start of another cycle of chaos? The video has already crossed 5.7 million views. Youth across Africa are sharing it, crying, shouting, and praying. Because in every word of that captain, they hear their own hunger, their own fear, their own broken hope. So before you decide whether to cheer or to fear this man's defiance, stay with me till the end. And if you believe that truth still matters more than power, hit subscribe.
Damn right.
Because what's happening in Tanzania might just reshape Africa's destiny once again. It began quietly, like most revolutions do not with gunfire, but with a man's voice trembling in conviction. On the morning of October 4th, Captain John Charles Tesher, a weapons instructor in the Tanzanian People's Defense Force TPDF, walked into a small room, turned on his camera, and did the unthinkable. He introduced himself calmly. My name is Captain Tesher, officer of the Tanzanian Military Aviation School. His tone was respectful, almost prayerful. He thanked God for his life, for the air in his lungs, and then without pause, he declared war not against a foreign enemy, but against corruption within his own country. In a nation where dissent can mean disappearance, Tesher broke the unwritten rule. You don't talk about the deep state. But that morning he did. He called it exactly that, a government within a government. A system, he said, that had hijacked Tanzania from the inside, a network of elites, politicians, and businessmen who decide everything from election outcomes to mining contracts while pretending to serve the people. He accused former President Jakaya Kikwete Tycoon, Rostam Aziz, and Abdul, the son of President Samia Suluhu, of leading a silent looting operation, selling the country's ports, gold mines, and farmlands to the highest bidder. And then came the line that sent shockwaves through Dar es Salaam. It is better for the army to take over quickly before it's too late. The only faith Tanzanians have left is in their soldiers. Those words tore through the country like lightning. Within hours, his live stream broadcast on YouTube, TikTok, and WhatsApp had spread across the continent. His face stern yet sorrowful, flooded timelines and group chats. His speech hit 7 million views before nightfall, carried by young Africans who saw in him what they wished their own soldiers would become: fearless, loyal, incorruptible. And what exactly was he exposing? The list was long and devastating. Billions siphoned from Tanzania's gold mines, coal fields, and ports, while children in Tonga scavenged for food. A National Electoral Commission accused of rigging results. A voter ID system allegedly manipulated to silence opposition districts. activists abducted, critics killed. The Maasai families of Ngorongoro evicted from their ancestral lands so foreign safari companies could expand. And in perhaps his most explosive claim, Tesher accused the ruling party's inner circle of being involved in the death of former President John Pombe Magufuli in 2021, calling it that it orchestrated to protect their empire. The accusations were more than political. They were spiritual. Tesher spoke like a man possessed by duty, describing how the Tanzanian army had become the last pillar of trust, still respected by over 60% of citizens, according to Afrobarometer data. He said soldiers were growing tired of patrolling not to protect citizens, but to intimidate them, tired of saluting men who drove Land Cruisers bought with stolen funds while their comrades' children went hungry. For the average Tanzanian, these words were both shocking and liberating. No politician had dared to say what Tesher said. No journalist had survived long enough to film it. But a soldier, a captain sworn to obedience, had crossed the line and stood in the open, daring his government to arrest him, daring his superiors to look away, and they didn't. By October 5th, the TPDF issued a terse statement. The army follows the Constitution, not individuals. To many, it was confirmation that Tesher had been disowned or worse. Rumors spread that he was in hiding, sheltered by sympathetic comrades. Others said he had already been detained. But one thing was certain: Tanzania had changed overnight, because for the first time, someone from inside the system had spoken out. Not a journalist, not an activist, but a soldier in uniform breaking ranks for his people. And now, with his call for military intervention
go help him.
across Africa, the question wasn't just whether Tanzania's leaders could silence him. It was whether they still had the moral authority to rule at all. The morning after Captain Tesher's broadcast, Tanzania awoke to silence, a heavy electric kind of silence. Government buildings were quiet. News anchors read their scripts slower than usual. And yet across coffee shops in Dar es Salaam and bus stops in Mwanza, everyone whispered the same question. Where is the captain? The video that
Bring
was
him out.
through the internet was now being quietly deleted. Facebook pages vanished. Hashtags like Captain Tesher and Tanzania Awakens were shadow banned. State media called him a rogue officer influenced by foreign interests. But it was too late. The words were already out, burned into the memory of a generation that had lost faith in politics. People played his speech through Bluetooth speakers. Taxi drivers recited
Africa a mess.
A market woman in
Africa
Perry
don't mess
heard
around.
telling a reporter, "If the soldiers don't save us, nobody will." That's when the government realized this wasn't just another online scandal. It was a national awakening. Inside the Chama Cha Mapinduzi CCM headquarters, panic brewed. President Samia Suluhu Hassan reportedly held an emergency meeting with security chiefs, demanding to know how a serving officer could go live for an hour without being intercepted. The Chief of Defense Forces promised swift action, officially stripped of rank. But his disappearance only made him a symbol. By October 6th, the nation was pulsing with rumor. Some said he had been captured and taken to an undisclosed location, that sympathetic officers had hidden him in the southern highlands near Iringa. Anonymous posts claimed he was already dead, but the absence of proof kept hope alive, and fear too. And then came the explosion of emotion online. Across East Africa, Tesher's name became a rallying cry. Gen Z activists in Nairobi and Kampala began sharing clips drawing parallels and Tanzania's deep state. Within days, Star where Tesher had trended across the continent. But the real emotional climax came when he mentioned the death of former President John Pombe Magufuli. For years,
We
Tanzanians
loved
had
him.
whispered
He was a
suspicions
good
that
man.
the late president's sudden passing in 2021 was no coincidence.
He was taking
Tesher
care of
gave
his
those
people.
whispers a name.
And I always
He
see it,
accused
somebody
sincere
got him.
insiders of hidden empires, naming Kiketi and Aziz as key figures. He even cited
I don't
links
know
from
who
Humphrey
win
Bogart,
what and why,
a known
but
political insider,
I
who had
said that
hinted at
wasn't
hit
right,
squads
bro.
operating
He
from Dodoma to
He
Dubai.
just started doing
That
right.
claim, unverified but deeply resonant, cracked something open in the nation's psyche. The grief that had been buried since Magufuli's death flooded back. For many Tanzanians, Tesher wasn't just speaking truth to power. He was resurrecting a wound no one was allowed to touch. International observers noticed. Al Jazeera, BBC Africa, and France 24 mentioned the incident in brief, cautious tones, calling it an extraordinary breach of military protocol. Western outlets avoided the deeper implications, but Pan-African networks and independent journalists hailed Tesher as Tanzania's voice of conscience. These
The world is changing quick. We won't come at a price though. It ain't sweet. Are you ready? Shalom.